Hey folks, it's Lev. Welcome back to my channel. So today I thought it would be cool or maybe helpful to do a to closet or not to closet part 2 scene breakdown explanation video, because I'm aware that it's quite abstract and people may not understand what I'm trying to say with all of my props and scenes and non-verbal cues. So I'm gonna do a film breakdown of my own film. So I want to start by explaining the concept, and then I'll move on to props, and then I'll move on to talking about each scene, and I'll probably do some video overlay and put it over here somewhere. So this film is really about my gender identity journey and my trans experience and trying to figure out whether I'm trans or not. It's basically a reflection of what goes on in my mind throughout the whole questioning of gender journey. That's the basic gist of it. And there are two characters in the film. One is who I call pre-Lev, and the other one is called what I call post-Lev. In my pre-production I named them pre and post-Lev. So pre-Lev is basically my conscious mind. The character is a reflection of my conscious mind, rejecting the truth, running away from the truth. Just being in straight up denial and fear, not wanting to do anything with, not wanting to have anything with the trans stuff, the non-cis stuff. Right. And then post-Lev, which is the guy in the military camo shirt with the watch, is basically my a representation of my unconscious mind, basically saying, this is who you are, I know your truth, I'm telling you your truth, you're not listening to me, sort of thing. Because my unconscious knew from a very long time ago that this is who I am, like I'm not cis, but then consciously I kept denying it and fighting with it. And that's basically what the whole film was about. My unconscious trying to communicate, hey, you're trans, this is who you are, and my conscious is like, nah, not me, nah, run away. So that's what the conflicts are basically about. My unconscious fighting with my conscious mind, and that's represented in the two Levs you see on in the film. I do want to say, if y'all have like further questions or something you're still unsure about, feel free to like ask me. I'm very open to question and answering questions. I like answering questions. So I'll move on to the props now. So actually I should have said at the start, if you haven't watched my film yet, go watch my film before you watch this, because spoilers everywhere. So in the film you have seen two cubes. This is the solved cubes and this is the unsolved cube. And if you watch my first LGBT short film, there was a different solved cube, the one that my friend made from origami, and I didn't want to use that cube in this film because I didn't want to throw it and wreck my friend's art. So I went out and bought another cube because I don't know how to solve this cube. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I don't know how to solve it. Anyways, where should I start? Okay. This cube, the unsolved cube that pre-Lev basically has following him everywhere in the film, this represents like the whole questioning journey. It's like the puzzle of who I am, and pre-Lev is trying to figure it out, but he never seems to be able to figure it out. Yes, that's the unsolved cube. The questioning journey, the unsure, the fear, the internalized transphobia, it's all represented in this cube. And sometimes pre-Lev gets frustrated in the film. He just throws it really aggressively on the ground. That's because I'm angry and annoyed that I can't figure out the puzzle that is my own gender identity. That's what it's saying. And this cube is the one that post-Lev, or my unconscious mind, keeps throwing to pre-Lev. And this represents the truth, like the answer to my puzzle, which is you are not cisgender and you are FTM trans. And this is what, like, the post Lev, the Lev with the watch, throwing this cube at pre-Lev, the one with the armor, is basically saying, here's your truth, here's your answer, I have your answer, it's right here. You keep throwing it away, but I have the answer, it's right here. This cube represents the answer. I'm FTM trans to the whole puzzle that is my gender identity, the unsolved puzzle and the answer right here. Alright, now that I finished explaining the cubes, I want to explain the armor. And yes, I built 2 sets of armor because I wasn't filming in like order, like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and I needed the armor to be destroyed before I filmed the other scenes, so I had to make 2 sets of armor. So this is the thing that you see pre-Lev have throughout the whole film, and it's basically, I presented when I was going through the whole questioning thing, I knew that I may not have been a cisgender lesbian, but that's just how I presented myself to the world. Like, I didn't want anyone to know that I was questioning my gender identity. I was really scared of people finding out, and in a way, like, this is like the armor that protects me from people trying to like be suspicious of finding out. I just presented as a cis lesbian because I came out as a lesbian before I came out as trans. So this is how I just like presented myself, and then while like the trans guy, TM trans stuff on the inside is what I was struggling with, like the whole gender identity thing, but it was on the inside of the armor, so basically no one knew what was going on. Well, not many people knew what was going on, and I was just protecting myself. And I had the answer all along. Like I had the answer all along. It was always like inside of me, so this is what the inside of the armor represents, but I just kept running away from it. I didn't sit down with myself, explore this. I just ran from it, and then it kept haunting me. And that's what post-Lev with this cube represents in the film. Like, it never goes away. It will always come back to me. Like, my truth will never leave me. And that's when like pre-Lev says your truth, and then nah man with the phone calls. That phone call is supposed to be my unconscious mind, which is the other Lev calling. It's like, hey, this is your truth, hey. And then pre-Lev's just like, nah man, I don't want to deal with this. So that's, I hope that made sense. I forgot to say, in the film, I don't know if you can see it, but I slashed the armor to bits using a box cutter knife. I don't know if you can see it. I'm hoping the camera is focusing because there's no one behind the camera. I just left it on a tripod. Basically the slow breaking of the armor over time, and then in the end it just completely snaps. The breakage of the armor represents how as time goes on I couldn't run from my truth anymore, and basically with time, as like the more I tried to run from it, the more it caught up with me. Basically, like I couldn't, in the end I got cornered and I couldn't outrun it anymore. And that's what the breakage in the armor represents. Like you can't run anymore, and you're just gonna have to deal with this, the inside, and face your truth, and learn how to accept it and not run from it anymore. Yeah, and I'll talk more about that in the film breakdown, but that's what my armor represents. And another thing I didn't say is I was scared of losing my lesbian identity, because like it took a while. Like I went on a whole journey with the whole questioning sexual orientation thing, and I was pretty confident I had an answer. And so when the trans stuff started coming up and my mind was like, you're not cis, I got really scared of losing my lesbian identity, because I'm like, what happens to my sexuality now? And by the way, at the time, like I had a lot of misunderstanding. Like I didn't know that it's like being trans and not straight was the thing. Like I thought that I assumed that all trans people were straight, which is a very wrong misconception, by the way. Like, trans people, cis people can be any sexual orientation. Like, gender identity and sexual orientation are two very separate things, and I didn't know that at the time, so I had really bad misunderstanding. So that's part of why I was so scared of losing my lesbian identity, and that's another reason why I kept running from the trans truth, is because I was scared of losing a part of me that I knew. Alright, on to breaking down each scene. So I have my phone here just in case I don't remember the order of scenes, but I have a pretty good idea of it since I just edited it yesterday and the day before. The first scene is like a recap of my LGBTIQ plus journey so far. So I just took footage from my first film, cut up like some main points, and then just put it together into a short sequence, just a recap sort of thing. And then the title scene with the legs that sounds weird, with someone walking without the ID revealed, that is basically post-lev, which is again the reflection of my unconscious mind. That's post-lev walking towards pre-lev, who's chilling by the wooden gate. And then the next scene is, I'm gonna put this here by the way, I don't think I'm gonna have audio. I don't think I'm gonna leave audio in there because I don't want to talk over my audio, so I'll just leave the video clip here. And so the next scene is where Pre-Lev and this lovely Arma, and Pre-Lev's holding this cube with sitting by the fence trying to figure out this puzzle, and that's basically the gender identity questioning coming up again. And I felt frustrated. It's like I was so done with this questioning of LGBT questioning Jenny. Like, I just figured out that I'm a lesbian now. Like, I have to go through this whole questioning thing again, and I was just sitting there trying to figure out my identity and like trying to figure out why it's happening to me again, and like what does this all mean basically. And then after I chilled there for a while, and then post-lev, but I'm gonna explain, just clarify again. Pre-lev is the version of me before I came out as trans, and the one that was questioning my identity with the cube and then post-lev is my conscious mind. It's telling me the truth. Pre-lev, the one in the armor, is my questioning self. So post-lev comes up with this cube, and that's one of the first encounters I had with questioning my gender identity in a long time, because I'd self-suppressed my experiences for a very long time, and I don't think about this because I had to focus on uni and everything, so I just suppressed it, didn't take time to work through these issues, explore all that stuff. So yeah, post-lev comes up with this cube, and pre-lev gets scared because again, it's something I haven't really encountered in a while. Like, it didn't cross my mind for a very long time. And then post-lev throws this cube at pre-lev, which is basically saying, here's your truth, I know it, here's your truth. And then a pre-lev throwing this cube back in retaliation is basically a representation of denial. Be like, nah, not dealing with this, nah, go away. And then yeah, that's what throwing it back represents. And then post-lev walks away. And then the next scene is the narrow, that's why I call it the narrow walkway scene. So this is where pre-lev is confronted by all of these labels. I did add in like sexual orientation identities as well, but that's not the focus of this film. There's a bunch of gender identities, labels for gender identity, sexual orientation, and I'm just, pre-lev is just overwhelmed by this whole thing. It's like, what is this world? And that entire set is supposed to represent what goes on in my mind, like all of the who am I, what label fits me kind of thing. Like, that whole set is a representation of how overwhelmed I was in my own head. Just too many labels, not knowing who I am. And the part where pre-lev starts reaching out for labels, but then like this now is because I wasn't sure whether the label was right for me. Like I was scared of being wrong, and so I'm like, maybe this one, no, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not gonna put any label on myself unless I'm 100% sure. That's basically what happened in that scene. So the next scene is the Lev chilling in the garden, sitting there, and then having a flashback scene. So that flashback, the one in black and white where I'm not wearing any armor, is it's what happened when I was writing my first LGBT short film. Basically, I was writing it, and I knew she, her pronouns at the time, and then I felt really uncomfortable about that, and I was scared to I changed to he, him. It felt better, but then I ended up reverting back to she, her, because for some reason I was scared of someone reading my script, and I was scared of people knowing that I was struggling with gender identity, and I was scared of using he, him because like I was scared of accepting my truth again. That's why, even though I knew using he, him felt more comfortable and felt more right, I didn't. So I reverted back to she, her, and then that happened when I was writing my script for my first LGBTQ+ short film. So that's a flashback of that, and pre-Lev was just remembering that time, so that's what that pronouns flashback scene is. Okay, so the next scene we return to the what I call the narrow walkway with pre-Lev and a bunch of labels, and pre-Lev gets frustrated that he is unable to figure out which label is best for him, and he gets frustrated, and that's represented by throwing this cube very aggressively to the ground. It's like, I don't know who I am, and like being just frustrated with the whole journey in general, and it just like throwing it aggressively on the ground. And later the phone call happens. No one called me, but I was just imagining that your truth was calling, and your truth is basically my unconscious mind again saying, here's your answer. And pre-Lev declines that call because he doesn't want to deal with that whole thing. Okay, and the scene after that is what I call pre-Lev versus post-Lev round 2, conflict round 2. So pre-Lev is shadowboxing, and then post-Lev is just chilling by the fence watching. And then the part where pre-Lev drops the cube and falls to his knees when post-Lev gets closer is symbolic of how, again, as time goes on, I can't run away from my truth anymore, and it starts intensifying. The thoughts start intensifying. The thoughts of you aren't really cisgender. The questioning intensifies. The thoughts of you're not cisgender intensifies. And then Lev dropping to his knees represents how my unconscious is really starting to come through, and I can't like keep denying it. It's just getting stronger. The more I try to suppress it, the stronger it comes back. That's what it is. Yes, the post-Lev drops the cube in front of pre-Lev, and then the click, and then the blur to the what I call the wide walkway scene. So the scene with the cardboard on the wall and all the text on the wall. That whole thing represents internalized transphobia. So I did do some close-up shots of what the text on the wall is, and that's symbolic of the internalized transphobia that I had to deal with in my head. And this cube being stuck on the cardboard wall fence thing, I don't know what it's called, it's cardboard fence. This cube being stuck on there is basically saying how my truth is in a way embedded in internalized transphobia, and to figure out my truth and like come to love myself, I will have to confront all of the internalized transphobia in my head, which is what's written on the cardboard. And then click back to reality, and then post-Lev says it's only a matter of time before it clicks in your head. You will accept your truth rather than run. And that's basically my unconscious saying you will accept it. It will click in your mind that you are trans, and you will not be able to run away from me any longer. That's what it's Poslev is saying. And then Pre-Lev gets frustrated again, denial again, throws the cube away, and then gets up and leave, and that's where that scene ends. So the next scene after that is the narrow walkway again, but then this time Pre-Lev feels a lot more pressure. So that narrow walkway scene with the label represents the pressure I felt to figure out my identity and find a label for myself, package myself, and tell other people, okay, this is who I am. That is the pressure I experienced, and that narrow walkway represents how I felt like I couldn't breathe at times, and I just wanted to get out of the whole thing. And this scene is where I try to, Pre-Lev tries to push the walls away. It's like, enough pressure, I can't deal with this anymore, but he's unsuccessful, and that's what that represents. Again, the throwing the cube is just being frustrated with not having an answer, and pushing the walls out, trying to push the walls out is, I can't deal with this pressure anymore, I want to get out. And by the way, that glass window breaking sound was an accident. I was pushing with my elbows and accidentally broke a very old glass window there. It was not intentional, but I ended up using it in my film. So that's what happened. That pressure scene. Alright, so the next scene again is the wide walkway. Again, it's representing internalized transphobia and how I'm basically walking through a walkway of internalized transphobia in order to get closer to my truth. And I'm not sure if it's noticeable in the film, but each time Pre-Lev returns to the walkway, the wider walkway with the cardboard, there is more internalized transphobia and question marks on the cardboard. I'm not sure if that's visible, but that was my intention. As the scene progresses, and each time I return to it, it gets more and more intense. And that's the point of the scene, is that with time, again, internalized transphobia questioning gets more and more and more intense, and that's represented in the increase in the amount of internalized transphobia text on the cardboard and the amount of question marks on the cardboard. That's how I planned it out. The next scene is also basically a representation of internalized transphobia, and I wrote like transphobic lines and stuff, and then I recorded a voiceover, and I made it sound sort of demonic on purpose because it's basically my demons at the time. I made it sound demonic, and that's a different way of depicting the demons that were in my head. Part of the reason why I was so scared is because of internalized transphobia. Like, I felt ashamed to even be thinking about this, like exploring my gender identity, and like I didn't think it was okay to be questioning or be anything other than cisgender. And that's what that scene represents, just non-stop thoughts haunting me. And that's actually what happened near like at the end of 2019. That's what happened. Like, the thoughts got very intense, the dysphoria got very bad, and eventually I had to accept the fact that I was trans, and it clicked in my mind, and I had to accept it even though I was so scared of it. Here we are again with the wide walkway scene with the cardboard. By the way, that was not intended. Like, I didn't want the cardboard to drop and then the second cardboard to drop, but then I just worked with it. I'm like, okay, I'll just improvise and turn that into something, and then I ended up like creating a scene that I didn't even plan in the first place, which is cardboard dropping and Pre-Lev picking that up, reading the transphobia, and questioning everything even more. Like, I didn't plan for the cardboard to drop, but it ended up working in my favor, so I'm pretty proud of that. So yeah, at that point it's transphobia, the questioning is even more intense. Yes, the next scene is what I call the drowning scene. So a little backstory. Initially with this scene, I planned on going to the beach and actually sort of drown myself, in person. But then as time went on, I thought like that's not a very good idea. Even though I didn't plan on going into like very deep water and actually drown myself, I can't swim, so I was scared of being swept out to sea even in like moderately leveled water. So the alternative I came up with was to drown my pre-transition photos. It wasn't pre-transition back then because I was still living as a woman. So that's basically me drowning from all of the pressure, questioning everything that's going on on this journey. I was just too overwhelmed, and that drowning scene is representing me drowning in all of these things, and I don't know how to deal with it all. These feelings, dysphoria, transphobia, being uncertain, not having an answer. I was drowning in all of that, and that's what the photo drowning scene is supposed to represent. Alright, so the next scene is the last set of the wide walkway, and that's when, again, this is like the max, like the most intense point of my whole journey. It's just so very intense. It's supposed to represent like me being trapped in this whole thing and not having a way out, and then the cubes at the end. So as I don't know if you noticed, but as each wide walkway scene happens, the cube is further along the walkway, and that's supposed to represent progress on my journey, even the progress and increasing intensity of my dysphoria and everything like that. So yeah, Pre-Lev makes it to the end of the walkway. The cube is stuck on the wall, the fence, and he's very miserable and scared. And I'm not sure if you know, but as each, so the last scene, the last main scene is Pre-Lev versus Post-Lev round 3 conflict. And I don't know if you know, but as each conflict scene progressed, Pre-Lev is sort of, he loses power. That's why I try to, at first he stands up and confronts Post-Lev, and then the second scene he's on his knees, and then in the third conflict scene he's already on the ground before Post-Lev even arrives. So that's basically saying he has no more power to run from this. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to show. So Pre-Lev, the truth, he finally realizes his truth, that he's FTM trans, and that he had the answer all along inside of him. And then Post-Lev comes up and aggressively kicks this cube away, because that's sort of symbolic of just finally breaking through the barriers, finally getting the message through, just finally being able to make Pre-Lev like realize this is who you are and you can't keep running. And that's what the aggressive kicking represents. And the throwing of this cube to Pre-Lev is like, this is your answer, damn it, just here, I know, here's your answer. By the way, that shot where I throw the cube and it lands perfectly in frame, I probably took like 30 takes just to get that one good shot, because I kept throwing this cube out of the frame and it was really hard, so all of these takes just for one good shot. Anyways, yes, Post-Lev comes, talks to Pre-Lev, look within and you will find your truth, and the answers, that's what I've been trying to tell you this whole time, but I couldn't get through defenses. And then finally Pre-Lev reluctantly picks up the cube, and he's shivering in fear, because that was already one journey, just getting to this point, okay, you're trans now, and then now the next part of the journey is to learn how to love himself and deal with transphobia and all of that stuff. And that's why Pre-Lev was sort of crying at the end. And then the 8 and 9 months later, that was my favorite thing to do. Setting transphobia on fire was very satisfying. So that scene, the end scene with the burning transphobia on paper, represents how I've overcome internalized transphobia after I went to gender therapy. Like, transphobia no longer messes with me. Like, I no longer believe the garbage. Like, you're a freak, you're not human, you're not worthy, go fix yourself, being trans is wrong. I've gotten that. I've rewired my brain to not think that automatically. Like before I worked through this whole thing, my automatic thoughts were, you're a freak, you're abnormal, you're not valid, why are you trans? And then I had to unlearn internalized transphobia and then replace it with more helpful thoughts that are more realistic, like it's okay to be trans, there's nothing wrong with being trans. Just because people say this, it doesn't mean that you are it, and all that stuff. And that's what, and then burning transphobia represents, I finally overcome you. You as in internalized transphobia no longer have power. I have power now. You as you don't. I have power. Transphobia doesn't have power. I have power now, and that's basically what it means. And the glow stick scene was I did that 8-9 months later, because when I first came as trans, I didn't change my name. I didn't go by Liv, and then it was 8 months down the track that I changed my name to Liv. So that's what that glow stick means too. And it says it says lion heart Liv. It's not lion. Please don't. Oh man. I hope people don't interpret it as lion loves Liv, because that's not what I mean. It's Lionheart Liv, which is my username. I use it as my username, Lionheart Liv, because Liv means I forgot which order it is, but like it means lion in one context, or like one cultural context, and it means heart in another cultural context. So I put it together to make Lionheart Liv, and that's where my film ends. I'm human, I'm trans, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know how long the final video will be, but I felt like I've been talking for a very long time. So I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope y'all enjoyed my film. As I always say, like, if my film helps at least one person out there, then I'm a happy guy. And again, if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to clarify, feel free to just ask me. You can write a comment or like email me, whichever way works for you. I don't mind. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.